great pleasure now to hand the floor to the President of the World Bank, Jim Yong Kim. Jim, you have the floor.
Thank you, Guy, and thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister, and everyone for being here. I'm going to go through a set of formal comments. They're very good, and my team doesn't like it when I don't do that. But then if you will indulge me for just a minute or two more, I'm going to talk a little bit about strategy of how to get there. In June 2015, the ILO and the World Bank Group launched an initiative on universal social protection. Since the launch, other partners within the Social Protection Interagency Coordination Board have joined and are working with us to achieve a common vision to make universal social protection a reality for everyone, everywhere. I'm glad that we have all of you here today. Universal coverage and access to social protection are central to the World Bank Group's twin goals to end poverty by 2030 and to boost shared prosperity. Social protection programs are critical to stimulate local economies, and this is something that's not appreciated enough, as well as shield the disadvantaged from falling back into poverty. Currently, only 1 in 5 low-income people in the poorest countries is covered by any form of social protection program. Political and financial commitments are crucial to fill the coverage gap for the poor and vulnerable in the poorest communities. The good news is that countries around the world are making progress in extending social protection to all in need. The approaches include old age pensions, maternity and child protection, disability benefits, with efforts toward building nationally owned, sustainably financed social protection systems. We'll hear more stories here, which I look forward to. But it's a fact, and Deputy Prime Minister Ducreux mentioned it as well, the large majority of the world's population is still far from enjoying adequate protection. More needs to be done both in terms of achieving and monitoring real progress in covering the poor and vulnerable and in responding to new challenges such as climate change and the increased frequency of shocks of all kinds. To this end, the World Bank Group is very happy to partner with ILO to launch the Global Partnership for Universal Social Protection. Through this partnership, we'll work toward rapidly increasing the number of countries that can expand coverage of social protection programs and ensure access to universal social protection. Our role is to support countries' own policies and programs and help them design and implement universal and sustainable social protection systems. We'll also spread knowledge from the more than 20 countries that have achieved universal social protection coverage. Their examples will help all countries find pathways toward universal social protection. One of the most effective approaches is the increase of targeted safety nets, such as conditional cash transfers. Our medium and long-term strategy is to financially support the creation and expansion of national social protection systems. This will help each country, especially low-income countries, to build functional social protection systems that protect their population. This will also help to expand fiscal space to integrate universal social protection into national development strategies. Now, if you will allow me, I think that part of the problem in the past is that we have not had both strategy and tactics that can get us there. First of all, I think the one thing that we have to have is great partners. And for me, Guy has been a fantastic partner. He's a great leader. From our team, Mikhail Rukowski has been doing this work in all parts of the world for a long time. So all of you as well in this room, getting the right partners is really, really critical. But when you get the right partners, I think it's also really important to say that we're actually serious about getting this done. So many universal thises and universal that's have been stated, and we were never actually serious about getting there. So we have to get serious about getting there. If we're going to get there by 2030, we're going to have to say, okay, so what does it look like then in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, and really plot the whole thing out. Now, the second point I want to make is, so partnership that is truly committed to getting to the goal. The second part is, I think we have to make the case for social protection much more clearly as it relates to the great global risks of our time. What is the refugee crisis that we have been talking so much about during this week, except the sudden disappearance of any social protection programs at all? And some of it's conflict, some of it's due to economics, but putting in universal social protection systems, we've got to then link to climate change, to the refugee problem, to the problem of social inequality, political unrest. I think that we can do better at showing that universal social protection is directly connected to all of those great global risks. And I think the third and most important part, and I just mentioned it, is to find a financial path forward. And finding the financial path forward is going to mean that we have different ways of funding infrastructure projects. And so this is why at the World Bank Group we're so focused on using whatever concessional financing is available to crowd in the private sector. We're living at a time when there's a potential tremendous win-win. Lots of patient capital sitting on the sideline earning almost no return, looking for higher return. Much of the higher return is in developing countries, especially around certain classes of infrastructure investment. If we can use our concessional finance much more strategically and crowd in that private sector financing, then there will be much more available for investment in human beings, including social protection. We have got to be together on that particular path, and then I think there will be sufficient finance for universal health coverage, universal social protection, the kind of education that we all want. But this group, I think, has to come together around a clear strategy and the tactics for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, to actually get to the target. Thank you very much.